This crowd rises to its feet. Carl slammed it home. Garland left wing, free ball. Perfect! Garland went to the lane, lobbed to Mobley. Pow! And Allen blocked the shot at the rim. Pow! With the left hand and a foul.
Welcome to the Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs Media family. I'm your host, Justin Rowan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo, the official streaming partner of the Cavs. Watch over 350 channels of live sports and TV, including Valley Sports Ohio, without cable. There's no cost and no commitment. Try for free at FuboTV.com/Cavs. The Cleveland Cavaliers have won 14 of their last 15 games. They are second in the Eastern Conference. Garland's getting healthy. Mobley's getting healthy. And from where I'm sitting, things are pretty damn bright. Joining me today is my co-host, Carter Rodriguez. Carter, how you doing, buddy?
Ah! How dare you? I wanted my to be excited but also disgusted. That's how I feel about that bit. But no, I feel awesome, man. I was trying to figure out what the heck we were going to talk about because it's just so fun. It's just like I don't know if we can just have a party for an hour, but we can try.
I think this is going to be one of those, oh my God, that's neat kind of things. I think there's still constructive things to talk about, things that we've noticed. Since we've last recorded, we had a pretty fun game against the San Antonio Spurs where Victor Wembanyama and Evan Mobley went head to head, Mobley getting the better of Wemby in that game. I think people that overreacted when Chet had a good game against Mobley earlier in the season should have the exact same energy the other way when Mobley goes out there and does it to Wemby, because I think most people would say Wemby's the better prospect. Wemby's the guy that can be the best player in the league. But Evan Mobley showed you, hey, if there's going to be a league full of these guys, you're going to want to have an Evan Mobley, and you're going to hope that he's going to be the type of player that can get the better of those matchups.
When the hell is Evan Mobley?
And then you go against a Sacramento Kings offense that historically has given the Cavs so many problems. And even in this game, Carter, I want to know if you felt the same sensation. Even though the Cavs were up consistently 15 points throughout this game, I was sitting there going, man, this Kings offense is unstoppable. Man, this is pretty. Man, they're shot making. Like, even when you're contesting, they're hitting tough shots. I'm like, this is just such a great offense to watch. And then it clicked for me in my head. While I am fawning over the Kings offense, the Cavs offense is going out there and outscoring them consistently by 15 to 30 points on the night. Like,
he's a bad man.
And that is one of the major reasons.
Yeah, I mean, they were the Cavaliers' offense in this game was just filthy. I mean, they were creating problems that the Kings just didn't have the personnel to solve. And it didn't matter kind of what the lineup configurations were. The Cavs were generating just an outrageous amount of clean looks, either at the three or from three or at the rim. No matter whether they had the two bigs out there, whether Sabonis was out there, whether Trey Lyles was out there, whether JaVale McGee was out there, they just were so darn good on the offense end of the floor. And then even on the defensive end of the floor, I thought they were awesome in this game. Yes, the Kings are electric, but the Kings got 44 shots. They didn't shoot poorly. They made 17 of them for about a 39% night from that part of the field. But Fox, Murray, and Sabonis combined for 41 points. Like, I have no way of looking this up because I'm not as savvy as others, but I would guess that's one of their lowest outputs of the season. And when you're grading on the Sacramento Kings electric offense curve, 110 is a great night. They only let him get to the line 12 times. How many free throw attempts did the Kings starters have, Justin?
I don't know, 8?
0.
Woo! Boy, oh boy.
Sabonis is a foul merchant.
Podcasters.
Yeah. Sabonis is a foul merchant. Fox is a foul merchant. These are guys who really pressure you. And when I say that, I don't mean they're grifters. I mean they are crazy athletic if you're Fox or crazy physical if you're Sabonis. And the fact that I thought the Cavs did a wonderful job of playing straight up, using their physical gifts to their advantage. You give Isaac Okoro a lot of credit at the point of attack, but man, the two bigs really, really stifled them. There were just not a lot of easy looks to be had. Sabonis had a great playmaking game. He had 15 assists, but he had 5 turnovers as well. So the Cavs were just kind of everywhere in this game. And yes, it was close and it felt competitive because a lead of 15 against a team this explosive just isn't that big of a lead. You know, it's not 15 points is not the same lead no matter who you're playing. But the fact that every time the Kings started to get to 12, 10, 13, the Cavs would come out and just generate 2 great looks. There was no panic in the Cavs offense. No matter who they had on the floor, I was just so pleased with just how calmly they killed the Kings tonight.
They did, and honestly, they did it in a way that I think you and I have been calling for a long time. Like, as the Cavs graduated from rebuilding team to team that's surprisingly competitive to where they were at last year, the thing we wanted to see is the Cavs developing an identity and sticking to that identity regardless of who their opponent is, not, breaking down your defensive scheme to overcompensate for one player individually. Like the fact that they allowed Jared Allen to basically guard Sabonis straight up, understanding, there's going to be times where we'll dig in or you'll provide like a little flash, like quick double and stuff, but we're not going to break our defensive scheme to try to take him out of the game. That to me is really encouraging because I think one of the things that the Cavs did wrong in the playoffs was overreacting to Jalen Brunson, who didn't even have that efficient of a series. And on the offensive end of the court, the Cavs didn't get scared by the fact that the Kings play at such a up-tempo pace and they're so capable of going out there and knocking down threes. They didn't say, hey, let's lower the number of possessions. Let's slow things down. We have a 15, 16 point lead. Let's value every single possession and make them beat us in the half court. It's no, we got to stop. We're going out and running. We're attacking their defense before it can get set. We're going to try to slow them down and keep them attacking our half court defense, but we can do that without slowing down offensively. And I think that's the type of growth that you want to see. You want to see them do that not just against the Washington Wizards of the world. You want to see that against elite offenses or elite defenses where you are sticking to your identity regardless of who your opponent is.
And that is as much about their offensive discipline as their defensive discipline. Like, they ran, but they ran in a way and they pushed in a way that never left them out of whack. That's why you don't coaches that, when they're going up against a team that's faster than them, they always try to slow things down in Turtle, is because they're like, hey, these guys practice this all the time. We're not used to this. And, we'll run into spots where we have 5 guys under our own free throw line when a shot goes up and they'll murder us for it. The Cavs were really, really good in transition defense tonight, especially in that fourth quarter. The Kings had an 81 offensive rating in the fourth quarter. The Cavs put the clamps on them, Justin. And I just thought their structure, their belief system, their organization on the offensive end was the reason they were able to play so fast, because they never got out of control. They never got so baited into the race that they got out of control, but that didn't mean they couldn't play fast. They couldn't push the ball. And, that's one spot where it's really nice having Evan back, because Evan can just grab and go. He had 13 defensive rebounds tonight. Cavs blew a tire there. Cavs out rebounded the Kings by about 10, I believe. And those grab and goes just really, really test a team's transition defense, especially a team like the Kings with a guy like Sabonis, where they have to be real careful about what matchups he lands himself in. So I just thought the Cavs were really, really clinical. And, on a night where you make 23 threes or whatever it ended up being, sometimes those can just feel like bomb away nights where everything went right. I just don't think the Cavs ever got over their skis on either end of the ball. They just, maybe there's one stretch where I thought Mobley was kind of breaking things to go attack JaVale because he got him a couple times and then, was just having fun out there. But other than that, I thought they were just so kind of ruthless on both sides of the ball. And I just don't think the Kings had fun at any point tonight. They always felt like they were, again, they were Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the hill.
Yeah, and I think the encouraging thing that we've seen throughout this stretch, and now even more so with Mobley and Garland back, is the Cavs can beat you so many different ways. Like they're relentless. The number of guys that can generate a good look for their teammates is through the roof when you talk about that starting lineup. Like there is a ton of playmaking in that starting unit. Now that Donovan Mitchell is playing the best basketball of his career, playing like, you know, a true combo guard, true point guard at times, the ball just has so much energy. You have 22 assists from your starting five, and frankly, it could have been a lot higher. Like Darius, I think obviously he's probably taking the most time. I don't think he was particularly good against the Spurs at all. Like I thought he was basically invisible in that game. But even in that game, he was generating assist opportunities for his teammates. And coming into tonight, even though he was only playing 22 minutes tonight, he's generating 9 potential assists. I wouldn't be surprised if that number was close to like 15 tonight, because the number of times that he was spraying it out to shooters, which is a great thing to see. The number of times his passes led to an open three from another teammate was really encouraging to see as well. And, you know, Mobley out there getting 7 assists because the defense is reacting to his ability to create off the dribble. Like, that's the encouraging thing when you talk about those grab and goes, and also just him putting the ball on the floor and getting to the rim effectively. That's how you create space, even without teams like really being afraid of your jumper. Because if you let Mobley get ahead of steam where he's sizing you up and he's able to Euro step around a long defender like JaVale McGee or a Wembanyama and score at the rim, like that is really, really encouraging. And that generates gravity because you want to get up on him so that he doesn't have a head of steam when you attack. And one of the things the Cavs did so effectively last year was generate space without shooters on the floor. We went over it in the offseason where they were top 3 basically in shot quality from the rim, from mid-range, from three-point, overall shot quality, half-court shot quality, without a lot of shooters. So now that you're seeing that same kind of those same concepts, but with more ways to attack, with more guys that can initiate and more shooting, you're seeing this offense hit a level that I don't think we've ever seen from it.
Yeah, and again, they haven't even been shooting that well. D underscore Lavrant on Twitter, who is a Chase Down Pod member, who is a data analyst in his free time, tweeted out kind of a shot plot of kind of where the Cavs are on volume, and then respective to league average on their 3-point shooting, and many of the Cavs are shooting well below their standard. Max Strus has been in a terrible slump. George Niang is shooting the worst in his career from 3. Darius Garland, I pulled some stats, is shooting the worst he's ever shot from 3. And so the fact that they're looking this good, mostly not shooting that well, like on a night like tonight, like the vision just gets so clear. It's like, oh, we can generate great looks, and our personnel is built to knock them down at a high volume. And like, that's the dream, man. A spaced floor with guys who can kill you both at the rim and from 3, and you still have that break glass in case of emergency mid-range game from Darius and Donovan and Karis LeVert. Like, they are 3-level scorers right now, no matter kind of what their lineup configuration is. Another thing worth noting, 36 assists to 8 turnovers tonight. Like, the ball was really, really, really popping, and their spacing and execution made their reads easy. Like, the Cavs weren't having to squeeze a lot of passes in tight windows tonight. They just were playing Sacramento like a fiddle. It was super fun.
Yeah, and I thought DG did a really good job of taking care of the ball. There was just the one turnover in the fourth quarter I didn't like. The one in the first, Allen had a mismatch down by the rim. He threw it into him. Allen kind of bobbled the ball, and that gets attributed to Garland because Allen never had possession. But I like this game from him, and the encouraging thing is, like, to me, it's clear that despite how well they're playing right now, there is such obvious room for growth as Darius gets better, as Evan gets better. Like, even though we're seeing like the game we saw from Mobley against Wemby, or Garland coming out in the first game, or tonight and shooting well from the floor, I don't think we're going to see like the best version of these guys until after the All-Star break. It's going to take them some time to get in shape, to get back to form. But even despite that, we are seeing, like you said, the vision's becoming so much clearer. Now that their minute restriction, they were both able to play 27 minutes tonight. We did not have a single lineup where we didn't have at least one of the guards and one of the bigs on the floor. And when you look at some of those, closer games against Detroit, Memphis, and whatnot, the opportunities those teams had to cut into the Cavs lead came in those lineups where there wasn't at least two of the core four on there. And now that you're always having those lineups, you see the depth. You feel the depth that the Cavs have. Their starting lineup is effective. They come at you in waves. They're able to space the floor even more as they stagger. It's really encouraging. And you look at this 5-game sample since Mobley came back against the Clippers. The offensive rating, 122.6. Defensive rating, 109.5. That is better than the offensive rating that they had in that stretch without Garland and Mobley of 120.4. And it's better than the defensive rating of 109.6 that they had. We're seeing already this team play at such a damn high level, and there's such an obvious another gear that we can get to as those two get more comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we talked about with this team as those guys came back was like what we were really excited about to take away from the stretch with them gone was like, hey, you just have more lineups that you can count on. And it just kind of felt like putting on a nice warm jacket, seeing some of these, seeing that starting lineup while Darius and Evan were out, just play a 7-minute shift and just absolutely, clamp down on the Kings or, subbing in Karras for Wade on some of those minutes. And, like the Cavs just have so many lineups right now. Like sometimes when you get hot during a stretch where you're missing some guys, you have people step up and then they kind of wilt back down once the stars can't come in. Like how many times did we see that happen, when LeBron would miss a 5-10 game window, like it's just so hard to play with that guy. You have to play in such a specific way. And like just seeing that Isaac Okoro is still coming out there and just absolutely destroying De'Aaron Fox on some of these possessions. Sam Merrill comes out, he gets 11 minutes. JB's playing 10 guys right now. He only gets 11 minutes, goes 3 of 4 from 3, and helps keep the Kings at bay. Dean Wade goes 2 of 2 and plays awesome defense. And had a couple.
Okoro both had quick trigger threes that were like semi-contested. I was thrilled to see that out of those two.
And it was really cool. Dean had 2 assists tonight, so it's not like he had a playmaking tour de force, but he made a couple awesome choices where he was sprinting up the court in semi-transition and he was catching it with the intent to shoot, and defenders were flying at him, and he was able to actually pump, drive, and make easy passes. He found Donovan on a trailer on at least one of those, and like those are the kind of plays that like a quick trigger earns you. Like when guys think you're gonna shoot, they're gonna fly at you. And so every role player is still playing well. Like Niang had another rough shooting game, but still was very helpful in his minutes. And like the depth they just are a 10 deep team right now. And the optionality that provides them is so good. And more than anything, I just feel like both the Spurs and the Kings must have thought like, well, where's my lineup that I get to make a run against? They just feel so relentless right now in terms of like they just have a lot of lineups who can kill you in a lot of different ways. So no matter who you're running out there, it's like right now the Cavs just have 48 minutes, and most teams, even good ones, only have 40 to 42 of lineups they trust. So those 8 minutes mean a lot, and there's a reason that every single team player on the Cavaliers tonight went positive, plus minus, that actually played significant minutes.
Mm-hmm. We're getting a consistent elite 48 minutes from the Cavs, and just like we get 48 minutes of elite conferencing from Zoom. Support for this podcast and the following message comes from Zoom. 500,000 businesses connect using Zoom, a single platform for phone, chat, workspaces, events, apps, and video. Zoom enables real-time collaboration for teams on the globe. Zoom, how the world connects. Carter, I think one of the important things when you talk about those guys remaining empowered, you can just see the level of communication that's happening on the court. Offensively and defensively, these guys are talking after every single possession. They are showing mental toughness in that when, you know, they have a streak or a couple minute stretch that's not working well, or someone's making mistakes, they're pointing out, okay, what caused the miscommunication? What do we need to do? You can see them talking on both ends of the floor. You can hear, you know, under the basket, Allen's voice booming, calling out things defensively. I just think the accountability that you're seeing from this team, they are all holding one another accountable. They are getting on each other for passing up open threes. They are all pulling in the same direction. And a lot of credit needs to go to the players for buying into that extent. But I think a lot of credit also has to go to JB Bickerstaff, because there has been a lot of noise, whether it's about Donovan, whether it's about JB, whether every single time a player has been out and the Cavs play well, that player gets thrown into, you know, trade conversations online. Like the discourse has been so toxic at times, and there's such anxiety because this is such an important season for the Cavs and there's such high expectations, and that comes with it. I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. That's what you sign up for. But they have that internal confidence in what they're doing, the internal confidence in how well they work as a group, and they haven't let kind of these ruts affect them. And I think a lot of credit needs to go to the players and JB for the patience they've shown over this stretch.
Yeah, and they haven't let these ruts affect their belief at an individual level either, and that matters perhaps just as much, you know, like the idea that like it's really easy to see a guy like Max shooting 32% in his last, you know, 10 or so games and go, I'm not gonna pass him. He's open in the corner, but he's just not it right now. Maybe I just need to go get my own bucket. But like they're not doing that. You know, he's still getting to get shots up, and then Max comes out and rewards them tonight. He goes 6 of 10 from 3, makes a billion winning plays when the Kings are trying to make dents in the runs, you know, poking the ball out twice on Sabonis offensive rebounds to get easy buckets. Like, you know, that belief in themselves when the outside noise has been so volatile. That is, you know, I'm gonna read the tweet again, Justin. I'm gonna read the tweet again. But when all these injuries came out, I tweeted, a disastrous day for the Cavs in a season with limited margin for more pain. A true test of culture, depth, and resilience incoming. Like, there it is. That is your culture. That is your resilience. To be like, hey, this player is not playing his best basketball, but like, we're not stupid. We know he's good. You know? Yeah. You know, I think so much about that Donovan quote where people were asking, like, you know, how are you going to integrate these guys back in? Are you worried, basically? And he's like, I don't want to be a wise ass, but like, we know what we're talking about. like, you know, so it's so relieving to know that like these guys do have that faith in each other. When there's been a lot of reasons for that faith to be tested, you know, that playoff series, those kind of playoff series, like the ones the Cavs had against the Knicks, those have shattered teams in the past.
Yep.
You know, coming out banged up and playing mediocre basketball on the back end of that, like, would have been very easy to have let that kind of splinter and guys start just going, well, I just got to do it myself. So the fact that they are so steadfast in their belief in each other at that level, it's just really cool, man. And like, this is the kind of team that you want to root for, that you beg to root for as a fan. Is like, they aren't, it's not just fun when they're blowing teams off the floor, though that is very fun, don't get me wrong. But what they're doing isn't affected by the outside noise, and that's like, that is the number one testament to culture, resilience, depth, etc. So just kudos to the whole organization, man.
Yeah, and you know, I think a lot of credit needs to go to Donovan in particular, because when you talk about like guys saying, okay, I'm going to do it myself, there was a lot of that in his career in Utah. Like when I was initially hesitant about the idea of Mitchell coming on board, like that was one of the big things. It's okay, how is he going to work within the team concept? And I think he has steadily gotten better and better when it comes to being a playmaker, when it comes to being a defender. Like I think he's a legitimate plus defender on a consistent basis this season. Like we saw him lock in at times last year, but I think he's just playing his ass off defensively. And like that makes this work. Like when you talk about, oh, can the two guard backcourt work? Yeah, when you have a 6'3" shooting guard, you're giving up some size there. He obviously has the big wingspan, but if he's actually locking in and committing to the defensive end, you have fewer concerns there, because you look at last year, elite defense with both of the guards on the court. You look at this year, a 108 defensive rating. That is better than their defense during the stretch without Garland and Mobley. That is better than their stretch since they've come back. Like that is an elite defense with those two on the court. And even though you're giving up some theoretical size, what is actually occurring on the basketball court will always matter more than, you know, the archetypes and what theoretically does and doesn't work on paper. And you can make unconventional lineups work when you have this level of buy-in. And I think what he's done on the defensive end is really impressive. But I think when you talk about that up and down stretch where nobody was really healthy, right? Like even in the 10 games that they got together before Garland and Mobley went down, Allen was on a minute restriction for the majority of it. Garland and Mitchell were dealing with their hamstring injuries, Garland's hand, there's so many factors going on there. And there were times where I thought Mitchell got tunnel vision. He kind of tried to do it all himself. And you know, those are those natural tendencies and those habits that are easy to fall back on. And I think he has really rounded a corner where he is playing the best basketball of his career. He is playing at an MVP level. He's playing at a first-team All-NBA level. And I think that kind of leadership, that makes it easier for him to go out there and tell guys, okay, I'm doing this, I'm buying in, everybody else buy in and do your part, right? Like for Garland, when you talk about fighting those natural habits, it's, hey, like sometimes I'm just looking to get other guys involved. Like I'm trying to make the right play. I'm not trying to step on any toes here. And he needs to be more assertive, right? So like everybody's got those natural habits that they fall back on. And it's understanding what is needed for me so that we can have the best possible collective success. And I feel like they're all pulling in that direction.
I think the other thing about Donovan, and well said on all these things, in all the ways that he has been excellent. The one thing I'll add is that look around the league. It is, with the way the league is structured, with the way offenses are thriving, it is not hard for superstar players to quiet quit on their teams and still put up great numbers. It's just not, you know, like if Donovan were just to say, meh, lost season, but I'm still gonna go out, put on a show for people, get my 25 to 30 a night, and you know, and make the splash plays so people still know how freaking good I am. He could do that. And and only people who are really watching closely would notice. So the fact that he has not done that, and you still see him flying out to king shooters on closeouts and all those things, where it just would have been easy to do that. Just be like, well, crap, lost season, but I'm just going to work on my game, on the stuff I know I need to work on, and I'm just not going to be that pressed. He's so pressed. He's clapping for the ball like when games are starting to slip away. He's really his give a damn meter is high. And we talked early in this Cavs rebuild about how Kobe Altman was banking on good dudes who love basketball, who really care about winning, and that was the archetype of player he was chasing. And sometimes when you're doing that, that's all well and good. You go trade for a star, and a lot of those things go out the window. Like they got another star that has that same belief system that fits with the core of their team. And that's why things are working so well. That's why their culture is maintained. And that's why they're the hottest team in the NBA.
Yeah. And I'm always going to appreciate the thing I'm going to really appreciate about Donovan. Like when I'm looking at his Cavs tenure, we have always been able to get the best sense of how well this works as a core because he's so bought in, right? Like there's no real question about, oh, is he giving 100%? Like this archetype, this team build, we are going to get the best data points in terms of, does this core four work? Because he is giving 110% effort at all times. Like he is completely bought in. Obviously, like none of these guys are perfect players, far from it. I think there's still a ton of growth and a ton of reasons to be excited about where they can go from here. But they've already had so much kind of collective success in their time together. And like when you talk about, okay, the Cavs take a chance trading for Donovan Mitchell. Wasn't where he was expecting to go. He readily admits that. But then we have like Tony Jones on the podcast right away, and he says, you know, like for all the conversation about location, winning is the most important thing to him. And I think he's backed that up in terms of how he's played, because he has given absolutely everything to try to make this work. And I think it's really paying off. And like, if for whatever reason it didn't pan out, I would never feel like I got shortchanged from the Donovan Mitchell experience, because I feel like we have gotten our all from him and like, or his all. And that's the most important thing. Like as a fan, that's the kind of stuff that I really appreciate, because I believe in this core. I think that this can really, really work. And he's doing everything in his power to make it work.
Yeah, I've been giving it my all too, Justin. Don't shortchange us. We're giving it our all as well. But no, Donovan, I mean, he's just been the star that we've begged for, you know. He's not perfect, but man, has he been just so damn elite. And again, I just kind of keep going back to the fact that like you just wondered if this team was going to be in the basketball wilderness coming out of those finals runs, and they were for just a little bit. And the fact that they've pulled together this kind of run with this team, mostly homegrown and you know, made with savvy moves, you know, not a lot of politicking. Like that's the thing, because like that was the great thing about having LeBron on your team, is like he's gonna call some guys and get you some buyout guys or some vet minimum guys that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Like this is all through savvy, smarts, culture, consistency, structure. Man, is JB a coach of the year front runner? Because if not, I'm going to lose my mind.
I mean, I think he should be. I think it's between him and Dagnall in OKC. I think Mark started off the year so hot, and OKC's been so good that that's going to be the front runner in the voters. But you know, we've seen how late season pushes can change things. Not to go back to Scotty Barnes, but I still got trauma there. The Cavs have one fewer loss than OKC.
That's crazy.
Like that. OKC has had great health. Like that is really, really impressive to me. And like the thing that just excites me. So obviously we've talked about how the schedule gets lighter, and you know what? I want to own up to something, because we're big on accountability on this here podcast. I messaged you, Carter, prior to this game yesterday, saying that, man, I really feel like this could be either a 1-2 stretch or 2-1 stretch, depending on what happens with this Kings game. Like I just feel like that upcoming back-to-back with the Cavs playing like 8 straight games on the road, or with travel between them, that's a really tough thing to go through. Man, the Cavs getting this win in this kind of fashion, like it starts making you puff your chest out a little bit more. And for being the schedule watching guy, I don't know why I overlooked the Thursday game versus Brooklyn being on trade deadline. So Brooklyn might be in a tough situation there. That was kind of the one that I had my eye on as a loss. But the Cavs really, like, they have a chance to go on a big run. And obviously, you know, Joel Embiid's health is taking a turn for the worse. I hope he is back by the end of the season, because I'm just always rooting for teams to be healthy. And if we're going to go out there and beat teams, I want to beat the best versions of them. But that makes the Cavs schedule even lighter, because they've got 3 matchups with them coming up. And I think one of the things that wasn't talked about enough throughout that run that Cleveland had without these guys is the value of continuity. And it's what gives me confidence that, you know, there's another gear beyond this. Like that starting lineup that we had with these guys out had not really played together prior to the injuries. And it's in the top 22 in terms of minutes played for 5-man groups. Like over a 16 game stretch, they jumped up into the top 22 for like total minutes for a lineup. You start to get kind of that second nature feel of where guys are going to be, what your responsibility is within a lineup. And I just think that, there's such an opportunity for, as these guys get healthier and as they get more time together, I just think it's going to improve from what we've seen here. Like, even though growth isn't always linear, like I think there's enough indicators here, whether it's what you've pointed out with the shot luck, that, hey, the Cavs aren't even though they're generating great looks, they're not shooting like at an outrageous level or anything like that. Like, there's so many indicators that there's still something else left here that it's worth getting excited over.
Yeah, it really is. And they have a chance to really make a push here. And the schedule is they're through the easiest part of their schedule at this point once they get through the All-Star break, but like I think they're going to be favored in their next 5 or 6 consecutive games, Like, yeah. They just feel, I was kind of just looking up and down again, talking about the depth. I was just kind of looking at the court, and I saw Kessler Edwards getting minutes. I saw Trey Lyles getting minutes. I saw McGee getting minutes, Davion Mitchell. And I was like, none of these dudes could play for us right now. Like, they just wouldn't get to, and that's representative of just how deep the roster is. One thing I did want to talk about with JB, by the way, I know you kind of moved on, but I did want to just get this point.
Yeah, we didn't spend enough time there, so thank you for doing this.
We have consistently, this is a very pro JB podcast. We really do believe in not only his ability to motivate the team, but I think we both have felt like he's been mislabeled as like not a great offensive coach or being able to lead great offenses. Or not having a sophisticated offense. And like, that's always rubbed us both the wrong way, because we have seen as the resources increased on the offensive end, they've run cooler stuff,
Yeah.
And year after year after year, the Cavs offense has gotten more complex with more options, more reads. Again, check out Steve Jones on Twitter. He's shown plays where they're running like 4 or 5 actions that normally would have been just one set in a single possession. They are generating advantages left and right against teams, even when their spacing isn't perfect, because of the talent on the floor and because the coaching staff has leveled up with the talent on the floor. There are a lot of coaches and a lot of teams who go get better players that fit better, and they don't end up looking that much different on the floor because their coach is so rigid. I think JB's flexibility and and his staff's flexibility to get this offense where I think it's looking the best it's ever looked, and that and the numbers don't match that just yet, but I think my eye test tells me it is, and the results just will follow over time. Like, I just could not give him enough flowers for that, and he's done it without bailing on the defensive end of the floor. He still has his belief systems. He's just has that 30 to 40% flexibility based on the personnel he's got out there.
Yeah, and frankly, like I think the defense has actually improved this year. Second in the league in defensive rating, but just the type of looks that they're giving up. Like last year when you looked at the data, it was okay, Cavs don't give up a lot of open threes, but they do give up a fair number in the corner. Like, that's not really happening in the same way. The Cavs are doing such a good job funneling teams to where they want them to take shots. And I feel like they've improved on that end. But to me, the funny thing is, like, I think sometimes whether it's team building, and like we've fallen into this too, because it's so, whenever you're presented with new data, we always try to relate it to our previous experiences, previous, archetypes, previous team building stories, whatever the case may be. I think sometimes people will look, okay, well, a lot of good teams had a coach that took them through the rebuild and then they weren't able to get them over the hump. And they think that that's something, okay, well, like, let's speed through the process. Let's change a coach, whatever the case may be. And they don't look for like why that change was necessary. And usually it's coach did not grow along with the team. right? They're like, coaches are not static commodities. They can have good and bad plays. They can have good and bad games. They can have good, bad seasons. They can grow. They can regress. Like, they're human beings like everybody else involved in this process. And for me, like, I agree with you. I think what the Cavs have run, like last year, the type of shot quality that they had, I think is indicative of a very good offense that was working with quite a few limitations, and it's evolved from there. And it's because the narrative has always been, okay, he's a coach that gets buy-in, but tactically, where's he at? I've always kind of felt it's the opposite, where it's like, yes, there is a level of buy-in, but the scheme is good. But the question has been, when we get to crunch time, are they going to continue to execute the offense? Are you going to get that buy-in from Dean Wade, Isaac Okoro to take those open threes when they're available, right? Like, we are generating good looks, and we need everybody else to play like the best versions of themselves and stick to the offense. And I think what you saw in that stretch was, as you've so eloquently put it in a lot of places, like, with the options simplified, everyone's just like, all right, let's run the offense. Let's do our thing. Let's go out there and like play the way that we have practiced. And now you have Garland and Mobley coming back, and they're adapting to it because they are smart players, and their best makes everybody else better. And you're starting to see even more wrinkles, like the fact that you got 7 assists from Evan Mobley, and Garland is now spraying it out to the 3-point line rather than just looking for the roll man. Like, they're becoming so unpredictable, and there's so many ways that they can attack. And to me, that's the kind of symbiotic relationship that you have between coaches and players, where players will force coaches to bend in different ways as they present different skill sets. And it's the coach's responsibility to kind of nurture that, develop skill sets with players, trying to assess, hey, you've added something new to your game. When has it got to the level where we can implement this and make it part of what we're doing, versus something we're going to work with you privately and get it game ready at a different pace, right? Like, that is such a give and take relationship. And I just think that they've done a good job of navigating that over the last couple of years.
Hell yeah, brother. It's so fun. It's so fun, dude. They've lost one game since January 1st.
I was looking at it, I was like, who did we lose to? Who was the one loss prior to? No,
the Raptors.
Like, yeah, I was like, what was that? And of course, it was the damn
on
Raptors.
January 1st. But yeah, I mean, just like, guys, just don't take this run for granted. The fact that they rattled off 8 wins and have since rattled off 6 more, like, like there've just been no let up. There's been no bad schedule, or man, we're tired, or man, like, they just keep figuring out how to grind out wins, and they just keep coming in waves at teams until those teams kind of bail out. So just please enjoy this while it lasts, because like there were stretches where we didn't see 15 wins in 3-4 months. Like, yep. So the fact that they're doing this is just everything I could have asked for. I do think before we wrap tonight, Justin, because the next time we'll be live will be after the trade deadline. Should we do just a little bit of expectation setting in terms of what you think's going to happen? Because I don't think there's going to be a crazy long segment.
Before we get to that, I just got a couple things that I want to list off. So Cavs at 32 wins, 15 losses. Last year when they got to win 32, they had 22 losses. So 7 more losses. Like, that's ridiculous. Continue to, add to our points. And I thought Chris Fedor had a really good stat about the effectiveness of Garland and Mitchell together this season. So already mentioned, they have a 108 defensive rating on the court. That's 96th percentile. That is elite defensively in their minutes together. And obviously that's the biggest concern, because offensively, they have both, like, when you look at the data over the last 2 years, the team is better and they are better individually when they are together. But they have a plus 9.5 net rating in their time together. It might have gone up after tonight, but that is better than Tatum and Brown on the court, Booker and KD on the court, Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns. Like, Fedor listed out a lot of those in his article, but to me, that's so encouraging, because I don't think either of them has been their best versions of themselves this year, and they are still so damn good together in those minutes. And like when you talk about, all right, what's the opportunities for growth? Garland getting back to just where he was last year and the year prior, that's going to help. And I still feel like there's a leap in there. Like I still think that, you know, when you listen to how they were talking in training camp and even like the glimpses that we saw in preseason, like there was such an excitement over what Darius had become and what he had added to his game. I think that there's still a leap in there. And obviously there's a leap when it comes to Evan Mobley, who's still just 22 years old. But like Darius just had a birthday, and like you listen to like Emmanuel quickly when people talk about like his exciting upside, like potential all-star in the future. He's a year older than Garland. Like I think that's the kind of stuff that sometimes can get forgotten because he was, you know, so good. Like even though he had a rough start to his year, he got so good so young, and like 2 years ago was the best player on a team that won like 45 games. So I'm just really excited that these lineups are working so well already with such obvious room for growth if guys are just, you know, playing like themselves. So I'm very excited for what that pairing can be. And it ties into a question that we got on Twitter just before we start recording. Caleb had asked Carter, and I want you to answer this. Do you think the Cavs should continue closing out games with the lineups that have been working so well since DG and Mobley went out?
I think this is a bit of a misnomer because, like, they're only closing them out that way because those guys are hitting their minutes restrictions over the course of the game. Like, I guess JB could stack it differently to make sure they close, but, like, you know, it's just kind of unnecessary. I'm going to not answer the question by just saying I think they should close with the lineups that are best suited to outplay the opponent. Like, you know, sometimes it will be their starters. Sometimes it will be, you know, swapping out a big for someone who is a little spacier. Sometimes it'll be swapping out a guard for some extra size on the perimeter. Like, I don't think it will often be, but like I will always believe that a healthy team culture needs to be able to say, Darius, this is just not your night. So, and Isaac is going nuts on the opposing team's best scorer. We're going to sit you the last 2 minutes, and we still love you, and you're still a foundational player for us. But, like, right now, Isaac, we're just going to let Isaac cook. Like, you know, or, hey.
Or Dean over one of the bigs.
Yeah. Or, you know, hey, Jarrett, they're really packing the paint. Dean shooting really well and guarding in space well. So for this one, we are going to close. But, like, I just think most of the time, their starting five in some form or fashion will be the best five for the context. But like, I'll never shut the door on letting JB make those calls.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think, you know, we might see the small forward change, right? Like it might be Isaac some nights. It might be Max. Like Max has been amazing in the clutch. So like I'm hesitant. Like I think closing with your starting five, like I think that's the best combination of players. I think that's the most possible talent you can put on the court. But there might be a matchup where, hey, Boston's going big. Dean, get out there and guard Tatum. Like, or Isaac's out there because, you know, you want a little bit of extra point of attack defense and the team's going small. Like they have that flexibility and they have that optionality. And like JB talked about before the game, how his preference is going 9 deep, but he'll go 10 because his hand's kind of forced by how well everyone's playing. I think what that's going to be, what that's going to look like is everyone's kind of guaranteed to maybe get like 4 minutes a half when you talk about like that 8, 9, 10. And based on how well you're playing, based on how well those lineups are going, you can go out there and earn more. Like you look at this game in particular, the lineup that works so well, like the Cavs went on a run with Garland, Okoro, LeVert, Niang, and Mobley, and that lineup played great. But then in the fourth quarter, that lineup struggled, and Sacramento kind of adjusted. They started attacking Niang a little more in space. So Wade ended up coming in there for Niang, and Wade played more in the second half than Niang, and I believe their minutes ended up being the same. But it's understanding, okay, even though I have a rotation in mind, if a lineup's clicking and it's going on a run, if a certain combination is working, guys are going to be able to earn minutes on a game-to-game basis. So as much as we struggle to come up with, okay, how are we going to allocate minutes for 10 people? It's kind of sorts itself out. And I think as long as everybody has an understanding that if I'm going out there and I'm playing well and these lineups are clicking, I'm going to get more opportunities within this game as long as it's not a bad matchup. I think it's kind of a competitive ecosystem that works well.
Yeah, it's not, you're not out there petrified you're not going to get to play if you mess up, but you know that you have a chance to earn more if you do well. And like that is a really healthy space culturally and competitively. So cuz the team, everyone should be fighting for more minutes. It is a zero-sum game. But yeah, I think that's the one thing is it's not like you just go into the rotation setter in 2K and that's just what their minutes are, you know? Like Sam Merrill might average 14 minutes a game the rest of the year as the 10th man or 9th man in the rotation, but it'll be littered with a bunch of 8-minute nights on some nights and 22-minute nights on others that end up just landing you around that 14-15. So I just think that's probably the road to a healthy 10-man rotation, because like if you're too rigid, you end up doing exactly what you said, which is, rolling with a lineup that's not working just to roll with it, or subbing out a lineup that's killing it just to keep on track. And again, as I said it last spot, I'll say it again. It's a really hard challenge for JB and the coaching staff to figure out how to read the room on that stuff. But they're proving up to it so far.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the only thing really left on the rundown here is to, as you said, set some expectations for the trade deadline. I don't think we're going to be talking about anything. Like that's my guess. I think Cavs are going to be active and they're going to explore options. Like when you talked, Carter, about how like to build out a rotation in the past when you had LeBron, okay, he's going to kind of easily bring guys in and whatnot. Like the thing that's impressive with the Cavs is, we have those 3 picks that we no longer have that went to Utah as a result of the Mitchell trade, but they managed to stay under the apron and keep their mid-level exception, which was obviously used on George Niang. They found creative ways to bring Max Strus into the fold. I think one of the things worth pointing out is when you talk about the buyout market, the Cavs are one of the few teams that's not above that first apron. So they're actually going to be able to sign buyout players. Most of the best teams in the league are at least above that first apron and wouldn't be allowed to bid on guys. So maybe that's an avenue they go. I think if the Cavs do make a move, maybe it is to keep that financial flexibility in mind, because I've seen some people say, well, you can just kind of go out and pay whatever to keep this group together. It's not just about that anymore because of the harsher penalties. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some sort of creative move to whether it's to free up space to make sure that you can extend Okoro next year, or to set up for a move this summer. It wouldn't stun me, but I just don't think there's a lot of that out there. Like I think can kind of keep the status quo and maintain flexibility to make that kind of move in the summer. But when things are working this well, like I don't think you want to go out there and rock the boat necessarily.
So I agree. If I were a betting man, I would bet on no move, because the Cavs don't really have the ammo to make a big splash, and all the small splashes are just weird. It just mess up your rotation. You just kind of, you never want to make a trade and wonder, like, are we better after this? Right. And like the Cavs just don't have a lot of demonstrated needs, and even the things they're like just okay at, like you're gonna have to push someone who's really good at something else out of the rotation to do that. So, the one thing that I was thinking about, Justin, and hear me out on this, because the only spaces that I've been interested in are like, maybe you throw a second at someone to like fortify your backup 5 or something like that, And one thing I did think about is if the team does decide to kind of go that angle, I'm not for more of a short-term rental. I do think I'm less pressed about those kind of draft and stash developmental picks that they might, if they wanted to use those picks and make picks with some of their second round draft capital, because of the fact that they found these diamonds in the rough, the Sam Merrills, the Craig Porter Jr.'s, the Amani Bates, like even like a guy like Luke Travers, who I'm super fond of, who's having a great year over in Australia. Like, I do think like if you find someone who can like bring something different if you need it, like and maybe they're not someone who has to play. Like, that's interesting to me, but like, that would only be interesting to me because of the work the front office has already done to go find really awesome kind of developmental prospects kind of at every level of their rotation.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, my mentality with second round picks right now is they are fun coupons. Like, if you want to go out there and spend those on like a short term move or whatever, I think that's perfectly justifiable, because like, we already have a minute crunch with the talent on this roster, and we believe that, Amani Bates is going to be able to step forward. The Cavs are going to have their full mid-level exception again this summer. They have their first-round pick this year. Like, spoiler on our draft coverage this year, and it's not just because I'm lazy. I think one of the things we'll end up talking about a whole lot is, hey, if you can trade this first back to get a first in a year that you don't have one, and, open up flexibilities with the step-in rule and whatnot, like, that might be something that you might want to explore, because you just don't want to necessarily bring in that first round player in, or maybe
that cap hold, like, all that that boring stuff.
Or maybe you're able to use it on draft night as part of a consolidation move. Like, I think there's a lot of ways that this can go. So I think when you talk about like spending it on a short-term kind of thing, that's something that I would not be opposed to. Like, whether it's a backup big, whether it's a little bit of point guard depth, like there's a lot of different directions they can go. But
this is, by the way,
I'm not expecting anything. Like,
I'm not expecting anything at all.
I'm expecting anything. Yeah, I don't need to add to it. I'm long-winded, but I don't need to add to that. Yeah. I'm not expecting anything.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say there is, even if you want to spend money on a fun coupon, you have to. This is the spot where you have to be really conscientious of your culture and who you're bringing in. Because if you go spend a fun coupon on a backup 5 that you've had your eye on, a second draft guy you've liked for a while, and they get here and they're like, "What the heck? I'm not in the rotation. You traded for me. I'm not even in the rotation." Like, you need to kind of do some some safety homework. And make sure that you're bringing in someone who's going to be with the program, because like Lowe talked about that on his podcast about a lot of teams who are really well set, but maybe should just go get a guy just to give yourself some more optionality. I do think that does apply to the Cavs, but you have to get the right guy that can toe that line between not expecting to play but being ready to help. That's a small middle of a Venn diagram. So I'm expecting nothing. And unlike last year where I was disappointed the Cavs didn't make a move, I am perfectly okay if they don't.
Yeah. Like, when you talk about introducing a new piece, like, that can lead to friction, as you said, right? Like, that can lead. And when you have that negative energy in the locker room, which would be perfectly understandable for someone that, is looking for an opportunity and not getting one, that can have an effect on everybody else. Like, that is a big difference compared to, okay, we're bringing back Darius Garland and Evan Mobley, who we have this massive sample size that they all work well together, that they've all been on the same page. They've gone through training camps. They do all their off-season activities together. Like, that is a totally different type of will this rock the boat thing that you can feel good about versus bringing in something completely new. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. We will be going live Thursday after the Nets game and probably talking about any official deals if stuff has been announced then. But I'm looking forward to it, man, because we get through this stretch of all the travel between these games. If they can continue winning, man, they're in a great position. Like, they only have to go, no matter what Milwaukee does in their Central Division games, the Cavs only have to go 3-2 in the remaining games against the Central in order to clinch the tiebreaker over Milwaukee, which is currently why they're in 2. They play Chicago twice, they play Indy twice, and they play Detroit. If Milwaukee loses a single game remaining against the Central, you can all of a sudden just take off.
Goes up.
Yeah, you just take off one of those losses and you feel even better about it. So that's really, really exciting. They only have to get 3 wins there. Like, at this point, like, catching Milwaukee and, catching Philly, like, that was such a conversation that we had of, okay, is that possible? Now that we're already here, you can hold. Like we have the schedule advantage. We should feel confident about our ability to be the 2 seed this season.
The Bucks
that
have
should be the damn goal.
The Bucks have the 3rd most difficult schedule left in the league. The Cavs
Yes.
have the 22nd most difficult schedule left in the league.
And you know what? That's not factoring for what Philly is going to be in those matchups either.
Yep.
2 seed should be the goal. We have it now. Let's hold on to for dear life. And not just that, let's put some distance. If the Cavs can keep winning until the All-Star break and actually put some distance here, we are cooking with gas. Let's go out and do this damn thing. I feel great about it, Carter. How about you?
I feel so good about this team right now. What a fun time. And if we got over our skis a little bit, I don't even care, because it's been such a fun time watching this team since December 15th, like that magical date where everything seemed to be going to hell, and instead it went so the opposite direction. I'm still having a hard time wrapping my head around it.
Carter, we're not neutral observers here. Like, we're fans. Like, I think we do a good job of trying our best to give, okay, what's the objective read of the situation, but we're always going to skew to our bias because we're fans and we want to enjoy this shit, man. Like, this is what it's all about. Like, basketball, NBA, it's all escapism, it's all community.
And can I shout out our community right now? We had 300
go for it.
300 concurrent in the YouTube chat. Vibing with us at 11 o'clock Eastern after a win. So thank you very much to the YouTube live. We love you guys. It's so fun to see you guys talking on that sidebar. And if you are an audio only listener, we love you too. But come hang out post game. It's super fun.
Yeah, and if you want a Cavs space where you can hang out and talk more, Chase Down Discord is always available to you guys. Simple entry fee, folks. You just got to leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot of that review to chasedownpod@gmail.com, and we will send you an invite link. If you are on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe, click notification bell so you know when we're going live. Don't forget to leave those ratings, folks. That is the number one way to support us, the way to make us show up higher in those algorithms. Leave us a rating, leave us a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.